If you caught the last video, we took this thing down the road for the first time in almost 3 years. It was super exciting, and the car actually did a lot better than I expected, considering basically the only thing that hasn't been touched on this car is the shell itself. Engine's new, transmission's new, transmission mount, drive shaft, the complete rear end, everything to do with the rear end is all new. It's a Ford 8.8 that I shortened. I welded all the mounting brackets on myself. I made the control arms for it. So needless to say, I was actually pretty nervous my first time taking it out. Cause it's like, what if one of those welds doesn't hold? Something, you know, anything goes wrong. I was pretty nervous. But the car did really quite well, and I'm thrilled about that. Now, it goes without saying that there's a few little things here and there that need to be addressed on the car. The radiator, I ended up welding the cap that was on it solid. I mean, I didn't weld the cap on it. I made a plate and I welded the plate so that it's solid because it was weeping from there. And there's a pinhole leak, so that's a real slow weep. I mean, it's not even like, it's been sitting here for a day and a half now and there's no puddle or anything like that, so it's a real small weep. The front end needs to be lifted up about a ½ inch or so, ½ inch to an inch, give or take. And the challenge in that is, surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of people that actually want to lift the front of their RX-7, so I've got to make some like spacers or something like that to go in between the strut tower and the strut itself. That shouldn't be too big a deal, but definitely gonna have to make something for that, and then hopefully that'll be taken care of, because on the driver's side over there, when I was making a turn, the tire caught part of the lip here and like bent it out a bunch. So it doesn't need to go up a ton, but like I said, about a ½ inch to an inch, and it should be good, and it'll match the back a little bit better too. And then, as you might be able to guess by the shifter on the roof, I need to replace the shifter in this, because, funny story, haha, when I first put the Power Glide in this, I needed a shifter for it, and my buddy had a Turbo 350 El Camino he bought a shifter for. He was like, well, this isn't gonna work for me, you wanna buy it? And I was like, yeah, sure, I could definitely use it, and I like the quarter stick style. I think it fits the car pretty well. But the other day when I took it out, it went down into first just fine, but going up into second, it was just kind of weird. I didn't even think about it. I figured it was just the cable needed to be adjusted. And then I pulled the cover off, and lo and behold, that's a 3-speed gate. You can see right there's first, second, pull the lever down, there's third. So this one has the lockout plate, so that it actually is for a 2-speed. Right there's second, there's first. So I'm going to throw that in, and hopefully that'll keep me from actually destroying the transmission, shifting it wrong. And then again, for those of you who watched the last video, you heard the fuel pump actually eating itself apart. I mean, you couldn't actually hear it in the video too well, but trust me, it sounds like death. So luckily it's super easy to get to, but I'm gonna have to be quick so I don't make a mess, because I'd like to avoid that. There's probably at least 4 gallons left in the tank, and I'm sure like 6 of it's gonna end up in my armpit. So let's start with probably the easiest of all of these and throw the new shifter in. So the nice thing about both of these being Hurst shifters is they use the same base. So if I can mark the holes and everything and get it lined back up right, it'll go right back in place. Longest extension I can find. I want to find a paint pen to not gonna be foolproof, but should help me get it lined back up. Want to get them all started first. shifter clip in. Maybe. So now that we got that knocked out, I think, let's see, what do we want to tackle next? The fuel pump or the struts? The fuel pump will be easier. Oh man, it's gonna make such a mess though. But I think I'm gonna do the fuel pump next. But it's gonna make such a mess. Now, because the RX-7 runs and the Firebird doesn't run yet, I think we're gonna get ourselves in one of those situations where we're robbing Peter and then going up to Paul and being like, sucks to be Peter, huh? So these are the dual AEM 400s that I was gonna put on the Firebird. I mean, I'd still like to put them on the Firebird, but because of our current situation, I think I'm going to rob one of them to put on the RX-7. Probably this one, because it's closer and coming out pretty easy. Now this is going to be as simple as disconnecting the power and ground and undoing the fittings, loosening the clamp and sliding it out of there. Alright, new fuel pump is on and all wired up. Got the new shifter in. Let's test it to see if this pump growls like a mother. Oh yeah, that's nice and quiet. That is much better. Let's fire it up just to see, make sure that I'm holding the brake. Alright, fuel pump is definitely fixed, so that's good. So I think I'm good to try to navigate getting this thing out of the garage and take it down the road one more time. We did make it back home. I'm able to actually like get into it now a little bit, which is nice. But I can't get it into second. And when I roll into it in first, it's like it's popping out of gear. It's really weird. Alright, got the car backed back into the garage, which surprisingly, fitting it through here on an angle and snaking it through there, not super difficult. So before I totally screw this transmission up that I just had built, I'm going to pull the linkage off and try to go over everything that I can and see what's going on with it. Alright, good news. I was out doing some running around, and then when I got back, I decided, you know what, let me just take a look at the shift linkage and pull it apart, make sure everything's good. And wouldn't you know it, it was like a 1/4 inch off. So I spun that piece back on the shift cable, moved the arm on the transmission up to second, put the shifter there, and followed it through every gear, and seemed good. Just took the car out, and it shifted perfect. Like, it shifted real good. I've never had a transmission just bang into gear so hard. I mean, I was shifting it at like 3,000 RPM, so I'm sure up at the higher RPM it'll be nice. But this thing, it's definitely a built transmission. Wow. So since all that's taken care of, the only thing left is to try to lift the front end. And I figured while I've got it up and I've put a couple miles on the car now, I'm going to recheck the bearings, make sure that they're good, because they are brand new bearings. I wanted to, I know they're going to wear in a little bit, so just taking a second to check that. As far as getting the spacers in here, that was fairly easy. All you need is a 14mm for these nuts up here, this big ass bar to pry the control arm down to bring the strut down, and the balls to put the nuts on top of these without worrying about getting your fingers absolutely crushed if your foot slips and lets that strut go up. So got that side done. It lifted it, I think, right around 1/2 inch. I could be wrong there, because the first measurement, or the measurement for the lower height, I took off this side after I lowered it back down, so things weren't really settled. But I got a pretty good idea on where it was at. I think it was like right around 24 1/4. Get you right in yonder, and then push it down. Here is where things get kind of tricky. Trying to find that sweet spot of pushing this thing down. There's one. There's two. There's three. Whew, one more. This is a leg workout, dude. God dang. Alright. All of them are on there. There we go. Roll it back and forth a little bit. Oh yeah. That is a lot better, actually. Yeah, that's actually really good. Oh yeah. Before, this little plastic piece was, I couldn't get my finger between it. Let me turn the wheel all the way to the left and see how close we are to hitting this fender. Oh yeah, man. That's my full weight on it, and it's still not touching. I think today was an all-around victory. Whew, it's getting a little too warm for this hoodie, man. So, let's see. Got the fuel pump replaced. Got the shifter, the new shifter in with the actual Power Glide gate in it. Got the linkage adjusted so it goes through all the gears just fine. Got the front end raised up 1/2 inch. Basically, the car just needs some tuning now. I mean, there's a bunch of preferential stuff. I need to put a catch can on it. I guess that's not really preferential. That's kind of like a, hey, you should have a catch can on it. Yeah, man, I think we're pretty much close to buttoning up the James Brown build. I might see about getting it dynoed. I want to make sure that everything else is good on it first before paying the money to take it to a dyno, and then something goes wrong, waste a bunch of money and time. So don't hold your breath on that, but it's something I would like to do. So yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'll see you next time.